All right, everyone, welcome, and you got that. Welcome, and thanks for joining in the fourth day of Reinvent to us. I'm Salih. I work as a developer advocate at AWS, and I'm here with my dear colleague.
Hi, I'm Olivier. I'm also a developer advocate at AWS. And today we're going to talk about how to build cross-platform application using AWS Amplify. Just to tell you briefly what we're going to talk about in the next 60 minutes, we're going to talk briefly of the history of Amplify. Who has used Amplify before? The Amplify Gen 1, what we call it. Okay, we're going to have a brief history to see how we came to where we are at now. But then we're going to talk about Amplify Gen 2. Has anyone used it already? Okay, a bit less people, good. We're going to see how to use it, and then we're even going a bit beyond that and see how we can extend the basic features of Amplify using the CDK. And then we'll wrap it up because we have a party tonight, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so brief history of Amplify. Amplify has been a project that has quite a few years now.
Yeah.
But the original idea was to make it easy for front-end and mobile developers to build full-stack application, like a back-end as a service thing. And it all started in 2017 when we released Amplify GS, which was like a JavaScript library to help you integrate with some of the AWS services. And then later after that, we launched other products related to Amplify. One of the first one was the Amplify CLI in 2018. And it was a big launch for us because it was a tool where developers could install and locally the CLI and then run simple commands like Amplify add API or add authentication. And then we would deploy CloudFormation templates in the cloud for you and generate the infrastructure. And so you could use it directly locally and on the cloud. So that was an example of how we could, with the CLI, just generate authentication for your application. And then in 2018, we also launched Amplify Hosting. And so it was a way to give developers the ability to host their front-end application directly in the cloud and with like a full integrated CI/CD. So basically, you would just connect your Git repository and we would deploy your application when we were doing like a push. You would also have like test environment, dev environment, staging, and etc. 2020, that's when we launched Amplify Studio. The idea of the Amplify Studio, which was called Admin UI back then, it was like a visual companion from the CLI. So basically, almost everything you could do with the CLI, you could also do it in a user interface, and then you could synchronize the two. So here, for example, you can see that you could actually create your models directly, your data models directly in the user interface. And then with the CLI, you just like, okay, let's pull that, and then you have them locally. If you just change something locally, you just push, and then it will reflect in the Amplify Studio. 2021, that was next iteration of the Amplify Studio. We gave you more ability to administrate your entire backend. And we added features like data management, so you could actually, here you can see in the video, generate fake data for your database, for example. There was a lot of things you could do in it, but that was the first version of a more broad Amplify Studio. And in 2022, what we did was we launched a UI building tool inside Amplify Studio. So we were giving developers the ability to go from Figma templates, like what UX designer use, to code. And so directly in the studio, so we just literally put your Figma URL and would import your templates. And then you could bind your data model to fields and to components in your template. And you can see here, we also provide in Amplify some built-in web component, like whether you're using React, Amplify, Angular, Vue.js. What you see on the right here is a authentication component. You will see that if just 2 lines of code, we can have these directly in your application. We're going to see that later. And today.
So, last year we have announced a new version of Amplify, which is called Amplify Gen 2. With Amplify Gen 2, our goal was actually improving what we have offered already to the customers by giving them an option to create their backend infrastructure by using TypeScript. So whatever you are defining on the backend, you would be also using the same language for your web applications or React Native applications as well. For other platforms, the TypeScript code is translated into the platform that you want to use of. The next thing that we had was the Git-based full-stack CI/CD. We have mentioned that we already supported a different environment, but people had hard time to merge these changes or even switching in between. So that's why if you have a Git-based workflow, right now we give you a chance to run your CI/CD pipelines through even branch names or even the features that you would like to work on. And also, when you create your applications, instead of using a CLI, we have a file-based convention. You will have, for example, authentication will be under auth folder. The storage will be under storage folder, and so on and so forth. We also have sandboxes. This is my favorite one among everything that we have done. Sandboxes are your developer environments. So once you run that, it will create a development environment with the cloud resources that has been deployed for your account, and no one else can get it if you don't want them to, of course. And it will be for you so you can break it, play around with it while developing your applications. We are working really closely with the Amazon Q developer team. We have a lot of code completions. Also, the Amazon Q chatted inline edit options helps us to move forward faster as well. And the management console has changed. Before, if you've used with Gen 1, the console was basically looking like there was a button to take you to the studio that Olivier mentioned, and the information that you needed, you had to go to the other resources. And sometimes for some customers, it was a bit confusing. And with this, every resource that you have deployed or created is in one place so you can reach out to it. So you can also deploy AWS services through the flexibility of CDK. What do I mean by this? Has anyone not heard of CDK before? Perfect. So CDK is the cloud development kit, like you know, and the cloud development kit gives us a chance to create cloud applications by using infrastructure as code approach. And Amplify Gen 2 has been built on top of it. And thanks to that, you are able to extend your functionality by using other constructs or creating your stacks as well. Right now, when you want to build Amplify applications, we have direct support for the following. First, we have support for databases. You can use DynamoDB for NoSQL database, or you can use Amazon RDS for Postgres or MySQL databases. We have direct support with generating APIs for it. We had a talk on Monday with my colleague from the product management team, and we were actually showing this during our talk. For the API layer behind the scenes, we are using AWS AppSync. AppSync is handling all the communication flow for us by also powering up with GraphQL. We have direct support and more easy version of AWS Lambdas that you can use. We have AI ML support, has been released on the 17th of November. So right now you can have directly AI flow in your applications. We have authentication with Cognito, storage with Amazon S3. We have real-time direct communication thanks to the AppSync. And last but not least, whatever you are looking for besides that, we have AWS CDK. So how are we using this? For using Amplify Gen 2, you need two things. One is an AWS account, and the second thing is Node Package Manager, which is NPM. Before you need to install like the Amplify CLI, create your project and anything. No, if you want to do this, you will be able to do it directly by using NPM. And for all the commands that you want to run, you will be able to run it through your terminal without installing anything extra. For example, the sandboxes that I have mentioned, if you want, you can actually create it by saying npx ampx sandbox, and the sandbox is going to be created through the resources that you have defined. So thank you. Of course not, we are not done yet. The goal of today is to actually show everything that we have seen here by using a real-time demo. We are in Vegas, everybody's gambling around, but as tech people, our gambling is only around the tech. So let's see how we are going to build everything together. We were talking about the app. The app is a travel planner application. You can see there are some upcoming trips, and there are destinations that you can go through, and there are activities that you can make. There is the AI assistant perspective that we will be talking about in a second to help you out to create this. And last but not least, we will have a nice profile that you can have your information on. So When we did the npm create, we actually created the information on the left pane of the screen. The npm create created a folder called Amplify. And under the Amplify folder, we have subfolders to go through and help us to create the categories that we want to have. For example, do we want to create an authentication? The auth folder is there. And if we want to have the resources in it, we will add the TypeScript code to define our authentication flow for it. If you want to have the data, you'll go to the data and resource.ts file. And in the resource.ts file, you can see that there's a schema, a model. The base application is just an application which allows you to create an email login to the application. One important point to mention here is, as you move forward, as you change things, you will see that the IntelliSense and everything is working, including AI, meaning that if you don't feel comfortable with TypeScript, don't worry about it. It is more like a configuration language than the actual language that you will be using most of the time here. Because my background is I'm a mobile application developer. I did apps in Java, Kotlin, Dart, many things. And for me, the phase was easy. Anyway, enough talk. Let's see some code. First of all, what we are going to do is, right now we had the email login. When you log in with your email, Amplify tells you to do a two-factor approval for your new user. So once you have an email login, it will send a confirmation email with a code, and this code will be entered to your application. To make that email nicer, for example, what you would do is you will be
Auth.
Yeah. What you will do is first extend the capabilities of the email. For example, you can change the subject to welcome to the reInvent, or the email body. Email body can have your verification code is whatever code that you have provided. Or even, if you want to have a link instead of a code, you can still have it by adding this here. This is helping out to have a customization, more personalization for your application. The next thing that we want is, email is not enough to ask from a customer most of the time. Many applications that you're using, they have aliases, usernames, or even your first name, surname, middle name, many information. For getting this information, you are going to be asking for the user attributes. The user attributes are actually your information that you get from your users. And you can define them by key value pairs, or you can define a custom one. For example, you can say alias for XYZ application, and we will keep that information and map it in Amazon Cognito behind the scenes. You can define if it's required or mutable. So this way, your API calls will succeed or fail according to what you have defined. And next thing that I want to talk about in the definition on the backend side is actually the logic of triggers. We provide you many triggers that allow you to call Lambda functions or external any operation that you want to do before checking out if a user signed up or logged in or actually post sign up, whatever it is. For these, what you will do is you will have,
Trigger.
So for triggers, for example, we have pre-sign up. With the pre-sign up, what we'll do now is, for example, we will only allow people with certain email addresses to log in. And how we are going to do that is we will write a function about it. So in the auth folder, we will define a new folder, and we will say, I will have a pre-sign up operation. And for this pre-sign up operation, I want to call a Lambda function. For this, I will add some resources to it. And with the resources that we have here, you can see that what kind of name that you want to give to your function, and also what kind of communication that you want to do. It will automatically go to the handler that you would define and do the operation, the business logic there for you. So if I go back to here and create a new file called handler.ts here, it will actually get the trigger with the trigger name that we define. And in here, for example, it says if the email ends with, for example, amazon.de, because you have seen my email earlier, or maybe with the thank you one, my email ends with Amazon. So I'm saying if an email ends with Amazon, they accept it. Otherwise, don't allow anyone to do it. So I save everything here. I have an opportunity to pull in the triggers to my login flow because it is part of my login flow actually.
No, that's good.
No, here. Because I didn't.
This hours trigger.
Yeah, it's the semicolon. Thank you. See, live coding, you know. All right. So now we have the backend. Everything is all right. But what we didn't do is we didn't do any deployments yet. For deployments, we will be using the sandboxes, the developer environments that I have mentioned earlier on. For this, we will do npx ampx sandbox, and that's it. Once we do this, I want to pull this up a bit so we can talk about it. You can see that it is actually bringing a new identifier and a stack, meaning that a cloud application together with the information and the resources that I have defined. And while doing this, it is using behind the scenes the CDK, so you will see a lot of information about what it is doing. Like I'm publishing this for the current region. In my case, it is, for example, EU Central 1 for Frankfurt. But for example, you can have like US West 2, whatever it is that your account does. It says this, and it says, okay, now I have all of these information for a backend, for an API, and I have provided these. The terminal says I have provided these, and now I can start the deployment. The creation process started by basically bringing everything together. Why?
Yeah, I just wanted to. There's one thing we saw at the beginning, so like, because the sandbox is linked to your account. So I have a sandbox. Then you can delete it, you can create other sandbox. But there was an interesting thing here. There was like a -- identifier. So when you create a sandbox, you can give it an identifier. And then if you're working with a colleague, you can actually retrieve the same sandbox using the same identifier. So you can work together with the same data, with the same infrastructure, because it's the same sandbox. So it's a good way to work with people on the same test environment.
Yeah. Sometimes we all have this moment that we are coding and like we're stuck. It's good to share those resources sometimes with your colleagues to have a second pair of eyes. While it is going to be doing the initial deployment, let's see how we are going to be implementing the front-end side of things, how we are going to have the authentication flow, for example. For this one, we will go to the root folder, entry point of our application, which is the app.tsx file. Right now, you can see that we have the app navigator. This navigator is the tab bar that we have here, which just controls every page that we have. And also, we have a more stacked version of navigation as well to go to the detailed pages and so on. So everything is controlled here, but I want to be sure that I have authentication flow. How do I do this is, first, I will get rid of this one. Next thing that I will do is I will say that instead of the app navigator, let's use something called Authenticator. Authenticator is a set of libraries. Actually, today I learned a better practice from my good friend here. Authenticator is actually a set of libraries that we provide to you that is directly connected to your cloud resources. So with like 5 lines of code here, now you have an authentication flow for sign in, sign up, forget password, user confirmation, and everything. It is highly customizable, meaning that you can add extra logos, extra color schemes. You can also get only a certain part of that information or of that UI component and use it somewhere else as well. Thanks to this, this is also highly accessible, so every accessibility perspective has been created for you too.
Something we didn't mention too, like we used email, in the definition, but we also support other providers like Google, Facebook, Auth0. So you can use this. You can even use several ones for your application, so people can log in and create accounts with these providers.
Yeah, the thing is, right now, especially with the Amplify Gen 2 coming, every OIDC provider out there is supported by us. So you can have your users bring in part of the authorization flows and authentication flow as well. So the next thing that we have done is actually configuring the Amplify, meaning that every change, every data operation that we did has been configured, and we are saying that, okay, our application is now ready. It can actually process all these information, and thanks to this, now we are able to use those resources. And now we can see that the changes has been done. You can see that it does say we are watching for file changes. This means behind the scenes, it is using CDK watch to check every infrastructure file. And in case there is a change, we say that, hey, now it is time to redeploy it. So I'm saving my application first. Then the next thing that I will do is I will send this friend to back. And
I know you saw, but you also said that it created like an Amplify output or JSON. Maybe you have done to briefly look at it before.
Let's take a look into this. So Amplify outputs.json file is basically the file that keeping every information that you want. For example, you have the user pool ID, your region, the way that your username attributes map, and also you have your data information like the URL, what kind of authorization type that you have, like IAM or user pools, whatever you want, the name of your files, and any more information that you need. You can find it in case, for example, you're working with someone else. They ask you if they can see that file. It is this file that you need. All right, right now we have this nice UI here, the sign-in and everything. One more time, it's with only 5 lines of code. Let's create an account here. We have...
Let's try with that, not Amazon. See what it does.
So I will just use this as salih.dev, and use a really secure password. You can see my password here. And there was a typo in it.
The typo in the password.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I keep it secure. And I have like username, but I want to do it more generic. So I do this, and you can see that I have a fail error here. It says you cannot have this because it's not a domain that I expect you to have.
That's a pre-hook lambda that we coded earlier that stored this error.
Absolutely. And even though if I do Amazon.com,
it's not D.
No, it will still fail. So it's not like doing half thing or like checking out. It's literally checking the last part of it through a string check. But with this one, you can see that now there's an email that we expect to receive by this email, which I need to I need to get it from my phone. So the email will be sent by us directly. You don't need to take care of anything. And the only thing is we will get an email verification. I wish I had a camera to just show you this. But the thing is we have an email with the confirmation code right now.
That's the email we configured before, like welcome to reInvent. And
exactly. And after the talk, you can come and I can show you the email directly as well. So we confirm the email. And now it says creating the account, and now we are inside it. So we have created the account, we logged in. Now I will hand it over to NVN and see what we are going to do.
Well, just one thing that we didn't mention, like Sally showed you that in the Amplify folder we have a authentication with the resource, the data with the resource, but we also have this backend.ts, and that's where you said, okay, I want to have the authentication, I want to have the data, I want to have the storage, etc. You need also to put them there. That's your backend. So it's not because you have everything there that you have to import everything. Okay, let's talk about the data then. Here, so when you create an Amplify application, by default, it's going to add this to-do schema. So we don't need it. Also, another thing, because we added authentication to our application, we need to change the default authorization mode because it created like a user pool. So let's say
we also have the guest access, right? The guest access is provided by the identity pool or directly by the Amplify. So you don't need to care about that anymore because now we have given the user pool access directly to have the authenticated users. Now we can have a more secure way of, no YOLO way, but more secure way of doing things.
Exactly. So we removed the to-do because that's not what we need. We are doing like a travel application. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to like generate a model for the accommodations. And how it works is that you just like have this a.model, okay, here. And then you can define whatever field you want. So we have an ID, name, address, etc. And for each of them, you have different types. So we have string, float, and actually if you just go there, you can see all the different options you can have for date, time, email, etc. Here, let's keep with the integer that required. You can also, say that they are required. Also here, you can see we have some authorization here. So here we're saying that the people who are authenticated can actually have access to this information. And you can even configure that. Was it that? Ooh, yeah. You can say, okay, I want the people who are like authenticated to be able to okay. Yeah, German keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm on it. Here. Whew. You can say that they are allowed to create, but on the other hand, the people who have like public key can only read. So you can have these kind of rules here that say, okay,
After public key, the
yep,
parameter is- Yeah.
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
So you can have these, also this rule that says, okay, depending on the role of the person, depending on how he's logged in, not logged in, if he's the owner or not of the resource, he can have different authorization.
It was
So-
stacked them according to, for example, most privileged to the general. So like privileged one is always more higher priority than the general one. So in case you are saying like if I have public API key and for example, authenticated as read, no, the read has the higher priority and you can define it more ingrained as well.
And so here I just added the other models we need. So we have the activity, the destination, the flights, everything. And you can see that we also have some, like for example here, I go to activities. I can say, okay, a trip has many activities based on the trip ID. So if I go in an activity here, you will see that I have a trip ID. So you have this, okay, this belongs to, has many and extra. Actually, if you go in the documentation here, you have all the different relationships you can have, like one-to-many, one-to-one, many-to-many. And for each of these, you have like code samples. So I encourage you to go see the documentation because you have everything here, like as many relationships between records, you have the lazy loading, one-to-one. You have a lot of code samples, so go there. You should find everything you need for that. But here, yeah, we have a few here also in the application. So that's the model that we have in our database. Now what we want in the application, because we use AI, is 2024. What we want to do is that when I click here, I want to be able to say, okay, create a trip from Paris to San Francisco, for example. And then what we want to do is we want it to reply with data that we can use to store in the database. So for that, we're going to use another thing in our schema, which is called chat. So here I have a conversation. And when you have a conversation here, you can choose the model you want to use on Amazon Bedrock. So here we have Claude 3 Haiku, but you can choose any other model we have. And then I need to give it a prompt. So
Before we do prompt, like one thing to mention, only thing that you need is an access to the model, and that's it. All the security aspect, the policy statements, we will take care of it for you.
yep, that's the beauty of Amplify. It just takes care of all the things in the background. So here I have a basic prompt says, okay, I want to travel to this location, from this location. I give it all the model definition here. So the destination is an ID, a name, a location, climate, etc. And I said, okay, I want you to return a JSON with all this information for a specific location. And yeah, I think we're good. Let's save that. Okay, so as Sally mentioned, I just saved, so it's triggering the Sandbox. So now the Sandbox is going to deploy these new models. You can see trigger due to file update, and then it's going to do a lot of things, including creating the DynamoDB configuration for my models. While it's doing that, let's go to the UI. So my UI here, AI system screen. So here, what I have, so I'm gonna okay, here. So the first thing we need to do is to create a client. So here I'm going to create a client in Amplify. So I need to import a few things. Okay, I have the schema, I have the create hook, and what is important here is here, the client, the generate client. And this will give me access to everything, all my resources in the cloud. Here, because I'm doing AI, I have this create AI hook that can return me two different kind of objects. Here I have the use AI conversation. That's when you want to have a conversation because we store it. You can have like multiple conversations. We also have
Generation.
That one you want to have like just like one-time generation, so there is no conversation involved in that. So I'm going to use these two. And so what I'm going to do here, okay, I'm going to then init. So when I do that, I'm using this hook, so use AI conversation. So the chat here I'm giving it is the chat here that we had here. So that's the same key. And what I'm doing here, what it has two things. It has the list of messages that was the tick up for the mock data. It has the messages. So the messages is the list of messages that we have in our conversation. And you have this handle message function, and this function is used to send message to the LLM. So for example, here, I just call handle function, and I give it the input that was in our chat. And so by doing that, I can now send information to my LLM, and hopefully what we want is that it replies with some JSON information regarding the trip. And so to do that, I'm going to go to my function here. Tick, 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 tick. I have a, I don't remember. Anyway.
First, let's listen, then we can check that out exactly.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing here, I'm checking if there is a conversation, because sometimes we don't have a conversation, especially when it's the first time you do your application. So we're going to create a function here to generate a conversation, which is just saying that, okay, I'm retrieving all the conversation in my application, in my chat. So using the client, the conversation, the chat.list. And if there is no conversation, I'm just going to create a new conversation. And then I can start chatting with my chatbot. So here, let's go back here. What I want to do here, nope. So whenever you receive a response from the LLM, you have this on-stream event that you receive. So I'm going to listen to this event. And once I have it, I have this function next, because we don't want to wait, when you have LLMs, you don't want to wait for the whole answer before receiving it. You want it to be streamed. That's what we do now. So I have this next function, and every time there's a new token, I receive it. And what I want to try to test then is that I want to only create the data in the database once I know that I reached the end of the answer. And you have this event.stop response, stop reason, and you have different reasons of stopping. You have like tools, for example, but what we want here is the end turn. It means we have generated all the data, you have everything, so now you can just parse it and add it to your database. So when I have that, what I'm going to do, so there are a few ways. You receive the last message. So I could just loop and just concatenate the message. What I'm doing here for the demo, I'm just for showing you what you can do. You have the conversation, and you can ask to list all the messages because they are stored in the database. So here I'm doing that. And then I'm going to just saying, okay, oops. I am just going to take the last message. So the last message is literally the last one that was sent by the LLM here. So I take it, and I check if it's a JSON, because that's what we want. We want a JSON, okay? So we can then add it to your database. And then we're almost there. So what we do then, we do have this background, okay, whatever. So what I'm doing here then, I'm just using client.models.trips.create. And that's how I just create the data in my database. So I give it all the information that comes from my JSON. And then I do the same for the rest of the data. So here I do the same for the flight data, I do the same for the accommodation, for the trip details. And so it's going to create everything in my database. One other thing, because we just created this fetch here, I need to pass conversation
and messages.
So just by doing that, now I should be able to.
We can, because the UI parts.
Yeah, I need to recreate the UI. And so let's create. We have faith in my code, right? Create a trip to. Let's go to Paris. I'm from Paris. All right.
There are some red squiggly lines around.
Okay, we have some error here.
Yeah.
Okay, the mock data are not exactly the same, so let's
When I was
let's
creating the
modify
mock
that.
data, I kept it as simple as possible. So item is user was just the Boolean. The IDs were just like numbers because it was like 5 things. But actually, we provide you more information with Amplify AI. We provide you which role has sent this information, what is the status of it, what is even the last word that you have received through the Stream API that we have. And when you put everything together, you can see that like if the item is loading, if everything is as we expect it to be. So we got rid of the red lines. And
Okay, I'm going to trigger a trip to Las Vegas then. See if I'm more lucky than Paris.
I think LLM is happier to be in Las Vegas.
So you can see I send the message and then I get a response as a JSON because of the prompt I wrote at the beginning. So now, and if you check in the
The other one.
in the console here, oh, there's a lot of destination, flights, everything. You can see here that we console log, so the flights have been created, the accommodation, the trip details, everything has been created, right? So now that have these, let's create another trip because we can also say, we can also like create a trip from, let's go to Paris, from Paris to San Francisco. And then you can also understand that I want to have like a starting point and an ending point. Okay, once I have that, we want to display this data, right? Okay, let's wait till we finished so we can see what kind of activities we can do in San Francisco. Yeah, some hotels, place. Okay, interesting. Destination, Mediterranean climate. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And
you can feel the warmth there, so it's good.
Yep.
Let's restart the application so we can see the fresh, because the deployment has happened as well.
Yeah. True. Okay, so this is the home screen. So right now it's the mock data. So I want now to display what's in my database. Okay, so I'm going to start by removing the mock data here. I'm going to recreate them here. Okay, let's add all the imports. I also need the client, again, because I'm going to fetch the data. So I'm going to need the client. I don't need the AI part of it. So I just need the client. But just doing that, you'll see that my application is empty. I removed all the mock data. So now, what I want to do, I want to retrieve the data from the database. So here, I'm going to, nope.
You need to fetch the data.
Yeah, fetch data. Okay, so I'm going to use like a use effect. I'm going to set a loading, nothing very here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to, I'm going to call the client.models, and I'm going to retrieve the trip, the activities, and the destination. So you can see that, again, with the client, I have access to all my data here. What else can I do? And I can even like retrieve, actually everything. And then what I do, I just, set them for the interface. And let's not forget to call fetch data that we do. Okay, let's try. Let's hope it works. Oh, okay, we even have some, again. How do you do the underscore?
Yeah, the mock data again. The mock data problem again that I have.
Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah. You can talk.
Yeah. So right now what we do is we are actually like fixing it according to the data that we have created. You can see one important point here. The moment that you created your backend through the data, it actually generates a client library automatically from the data. So we didn't do any code generation. It did automatically thanks to the TypeScript. So every information that we did, every type, every mutable or required value, we actually have them directly and immediately had an effect on our UI.
And it's working. So now in the UI you can see we have the Paris, the branch Paris, the branch to Las Vegas, the Paris to San Francisco, and we have the popular destination, we have the popular activities here. So everything that we asked the LLM to create and that we added to the database. Just to show you, because we showed you how to list things, how to create things. We can also delete things. I have a delete function somewhere here. So you can also very easily say, okay, it's here. Okay. Where's my delete here? here. And so you can see that you can easily just call like client.model.trips.delete, and you give it a, okay, item. You can even get the types. Just wanted to show you that. In the schema trips, you can get the trip type of your data. So that's very useful. I'm not going to delete information now for the sake of the demo. What I want to show you, however, is that when I click on a popular destination, right now I don't have anything. I want to show you the list, the create, the delete. I want to show you the get. So here again, I'm going to get rid of the mock data. I'm going to get rid of this. And so first thing, I'm going to recreate all the destination activities, etc. I need a client again. Again, I don't need the AI part of it, but I always need a client to be able to interact with my data. And here in my fetch data, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to retrieve the destination here based on a destination ID. What have I done?
Your destination ID is number. You can go up to make it a
Where is
string.
Yeah,
this
string.
one.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So I'm retrieving the destination. I'm retrieving the activities, and now, okay, I have 2 times schema, and I have a lot of red.
I think you will have a lot of UI part to mention. Getting rid of.
Okay, so maybe this part won't work in the demo. But basically, you see, my point is that you can easily get information with from the client models, your data model, and then the get functions on it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to where it was before, so you can continue the demo without me breaking everything and improvising. Very good.
We didn't lose the time. We could do the hacking. So let's see what we have in the next. If we have time, maybe we can come back to it.
So we've seen authentication, we've seen data.
Yeah.
What else? Storage?
Now it is storage, and one more bonus. And AI is not the bonus. So, okay, everyone. One next thing that we have is actually the storage capabilities. For the storage capabilities, the first thing that we have to do is, I also need to be mindful about our time. We lost a lot of time, but we will make up for it. So first thing is we will create a storage folder. The storage folder needs to have a resource.ts file for us to create our resources there. So I'm just creating a resource.ts. The next thing that I will be doing is I will be creating a storage capability. Behind the scenes, it is using Amazon's S3, and S3 has buckets that you can keep your information or you keep your data, files, whatever you want to call in. And with the Gen 2, we have followed the new way to create your data flow for the storage. What we have is now we have paths. For example, in case you want to save everything about profile pictures, you will say, for the profile pictures, I want to use the profile pictures folder in this bucket. And also per path that you have, you can have authorization rules. For example, for profile pictures, everything there, I want people to be able to read it, write it, and delete it. And once you have this, you go back to the backend.ts, because like Olivier said, this is the part that we are adding our information. Then we import the data that I have created on, save it, and the deployment will start. This shouldn't be this fast.
That was a fast deployment.
No, it's not a deployment. Okay. I'm like, that shouldn't be that fast, because it should create the bucket and everything at least. So let's go back to the profile page, because in the profile page we have some information, but I want to extend it. How will I extend it? First, I will get rid of this. I will get rid of my mock data like Olivier did. The first thing that I will do is to actually fetch the data. For fetching the data, I will be using the use effect, and I will be using some libraries from Amplify's auth library that we have already here. You can get the attributes or the user that has been logged in. But for reading this data, for reading further data, what you need is, you need a client. And for creating a client, you need to write profile, you need to get the client like, let me get rid of this, we had before. Generic client and schema, it will automatically bring in everything about your data. It's not just anything related to the database, but anything related to it that you do, like file storage and so on, you would also still use it as well. Okay, now we have read the list and so on. Let me go back to actually profile that we can see if we have some information. It says, yeah, you have some stuff, but you also have errors. The reason is that for the trips, we have a different mapping. For the date, we have string already, so no need to do this toString method, you know. And once you do this, you can save it, and also total cost is one part of it. We go up. I think we are golden here. Let's see. Now you can see that the reinvent presenter person that I have created is here. The information, the email is here. And last but not least, we have the latest information. So we are good. We are in a good spot. Now let's read the data. First, we will have an image picker implemented. Then we will do the upload. And hopefully, everything will be all right. So next spot. Now that we are here, first thing that we need is to actually create the image picker functionality. For this one, first we will say, okay, use the image picker library from Expo, because as I said, we are using the framework called Expo. And the next thing that we are doing is, I think we need to do some imports here, because we need to use, we need to use many things out of the libraries that we have added, like Expo's image picker, and also from the React Native libraries. And the next thing that we have is, so the image picker is here. We have a URI, which is the address of our image. We have some libraries to do the upload image operation, but we have to still implement that.
Just so you know that all these UI components, they are part of the Amplify UI library. So you don't have to create any of these. Everything that we import, it's not something we've coded that is hidden. It's something that comes from the Amplify UI library.
Absolutely. So everything from the AWS Amplify libraries, it is directly implemented here, like fetching, like uploading the data. This is for your storage libraries. And you get the name of your file. In this case, the file name is my username.jpg, because I want to map the username to my user. And I will say this is the file name that I have passed here. And besides that, we also have the calculated value of the percentage, while we can see how many percent that we have uploaded. And we save this one here. So right now, we have the image upload capabilities, and image picker has been implemented. What do I miss? I miss a way to read the data. For reading the data, as you see right now, I have this placeholder. But instead, I would like to use something different. I want to use the library or use the function from the AWS Amplify called getURL under the profile pictures. And if it does exist, let me know. If it doesn't, just give me an error. That's why we have the try catch around. And once it is done, we will see it in action. So the deployment is done. Everything is done. Let me refresh the application, do a hot restart, and we read the data. That's good. I go to my profile. I fetch the information. Still, we are golden. I click on this one. And I don't see it. You know why? Because I didn't use the image picker yet. So this is, as you see, just waiting for me to use. I go down here. In here, I have an empty function. I will just say pick image here. Now I click. Now you can see that this is like when you create a simulator on your device, you'll see these photos. I selected one. You can see that the upload progress has happened. The path is here. Let me do a refresh so you can see we actually did this. We have 4 minutes. So I brought up this page, and now you can see that the image is loaded as I uploaded to. So that's also working fine. So next thing is, I will just quickly show you how you can do it, but we will not have time for the deployment, unfortunately, due to technical issues. But I will show you a video. Luckily, I did the video about the CDK extension that you can do. there are many services that CDK provides, like I think more than 150 or something, I don't remember. And out of everything that we provide, you would like to do sometimes a different approach. For example, end user messaging that you can send people like campaigns and so on. And how you do it is, you will go back to your backend file. In the backend file, you will say const backend here. And this is giving you a reference to everything that you have done with your backend. So you will have reference to your already deployed resources, or you can deploy resources by using this. So by this, we will be calling something called in-app messaging. The in-app messaging will create a stack that will be part of my Amplify stack. Let me import everything that I need. So this was from Amplify. This is from Pinpoint. This is from Pinpoint. One important thing to mention here is like we have like start times, end times. Start time and end time is UTC. I spent hours that why it's not working. A few days ago, it was UTC. I blame jet lag for that. And you can define also the layout, like for example, mobile feed, or where do you want it to be, or like what kind of background, even background color, so you can have your theming directly injected into this. And once you deploy this, you can define an event to be sent, and if an event matches what you have in your campaign, and then you can see it. So let me open the QuickTime. I think in the QuickTime we have a reference to it, or actually I can get it from my desktop here. So if I
Open it properly, don't.
yeah, exactly. Desktop here. Let's open this properly. So we are running it right now, okay? And as you see, when I click, an event has been sent, and we are matching our UI directly here. So let me restart again. I click the button here, and it is already showing on the screen. I didn't write a single line of code for this. Everything is defined on the server and passed down to me.
Just to show that, yeah, we can extend Amplify with any AWS services using the CDK in the backend.ts.
All right.
No, there is none. We are like on the.
Yeah, let me plug that back in case people want to take our email addresses and so on. Let's go back to here. So before we slowly wrap up, I want to thank you all for standing here, waiting with us, and not leaving us during these difficulties.
And going through one of the longest live coding.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed all the demos. Seriously, we were really excited to share everything with you. This will be available next week as an open source project in the Build on AWS organization of Amazon over GitHub, so you can find all the code. No worries about that one. Thank you very much for listening to us and listen to my amazing colleague Olivier here. And if you have any questions, we will be here answering them. Thank you.
And yeah, enjoy the rest of the event.